The Ontario government took 15 years and spent $13 billion to build a new Eglinton Crosstown public transit rail line in Toronto. And they screwed up accessibility for public transit passengers with disabilities. Let me just show you one example at the Chaplin Eglinton Crosstown stop. Next stop, accessibility Bungle. My name is David Lepofsky. I'm chair of the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act Alliance. I'm also blind. The Eglinton Crosstown stations are big and in some cases very confusing to find your way around if you're sighted because the signage ain't great, and if you're blind because there's no predictable path of travel. What helps us get through a maze-like station is to have on the floor a tactile walking surface indicator, TWSI. They sometimes call them Twizzies, which are cane detectable, and you can see there's one here on the floor right at the entrance to the street, and it's really good for following with my cane. But the bungle here is that in the case of each of the Twizzies on all the floors, they all lead me to an elevator. They assume that because I'm blind, I don't use the stairs or the escalator. Well, in 50 years of using the Toronto Transit Commission's many subway stations, I only use the stairs or the escalator. I'd like to have a choice. Here, take a look. Metrolinx knows blind people may want to use the stairs. That's why they installed cane-detectable bumps on the floor at the top of the stairs. Following this Twizzy. And where does it take me? Here, I'm inside the entrance doors at street level. At the top of the escalator, there's no tactile walking surface indicator to lead me there. At least my hearing is good, so I'm able to navigate over to the escalator by the sound. But for someone who's hard of hearing and visually impaired, not so much. But let's go down to the next level below street level. I'm now at the bottom of the escalator that took me from street level to the first level underground. Now, you might wonder, why don't I just take an elevator? Several reasons. First, TTC elevators have a terrible track record of breaking down. And if I only know how to get down to the subway by way of elevators, I am exposed to the risk that I won't be able to get there at all. Second, it's not just one elevator. You have to take two separate elevators, and they're not side by side. You've got to find the first elevator, wait for it, if it works, then go down 2 levels. I'd rather just take the escalators or the stairs. It's way quicker. That's why I always use them. Now, I'm on this first level. I have to get from the first escalator down to this level to the next escalator or stairs to go down to level 2 underground, which is where you pay for your transit ride. Problem for me, there's no tactile walking surface indicator on this floor at all. But the Ontario government didn't do that. Inexcusable. Now, I do have a way of doing it. At least I do because my hearing is good, but I had to be trained to do this. It's not self-evident. It wouldn't be obvious to me if it was my first time here. I could go from the bottom of the stairs here over to this wall and then follow along the wall. Well, I can hear this escalator, so I can find it. But if I'd never been to the station before, this would not be a pretty picture. I'm now at the bottom of the second escalator. I'm 2 levels underground. I've got to get from here to the kiosks where I pay for my transit ride. There is no tactile walking surface indicator to lead me from here to there. If I didn't know the route after spending an hour and a half with a mobility instructor from the Canadian National Institute for the Blind, I'd be lost. But I have to memorize the following. I've got to follow the wall to my right. I got to follow it for a little while. I got to turn left and then sweep my cane wide to find a tactile walking surface indicator that only goes from the elevator to the kiosks where you pay, because blind people can't possibly use an escalator, or so the Ontario government must think. Here I go. I've just come through the kiosk having paid for my transit ride here on the second floor underground, and there is a tactile walking surface indicator on the floor, but it does not lead me to the stairs down to the subway platform or the escalator. It only leads me to the elevator. Here I'm right near a turnoff to go down to the stairs, or at least I was told by a sighted person. I wouldn't have a clue it's there. If I walk along here, I follow the tactile walking surface indicator. I've got to do a sharp turn here, and then my only choice is either take the elevator. Fortunately, again, I've got good enough hearing that I can hear where the escalators are. If I had hearing loss included with vision loss, this would not be something that would be easy or even possible. Now, that's taking the way down, but you also have to be able to find your way up. Each of these different floors has a different floor pattern. So just learning one doesn't mean you have a clue how to navigate the others. And sometimes they're even harder going the other way. When I come up these escalators from the subway, there's no tactile walking surface indicator here. There's no way to know how to get to the electronic kiosk to exit from here and make my way to the next escalator going up. In fact, I'm right here in basically open pavement. It's like we dropped in the ocean. I had to learn from a mobility instructor from CNIB during an hour and a half of training that somewhere along here, there's a tactile walking surface indicator, and maybe I'll find it eventually, but that's my only option. And then if I don't find it, I got a problem. In fact, I think I missed it. I'm now on the third level underground at the subway platform level. I'm not looking forward to navigating my way back up because I've got to remember 3 different floor plans and ones that don't have the proper navigation guides for me. I also am not looking forward to trying to figure out other stations on this new transit line. This whole system was designed by the Ontario government and built by an agency of the government called Metrolinx. They should not be allowed to build any more public transit stations. This design is incompetent, and I've just showed you one barrier. Learn more at www.aodaalliance.org. If you like podcasts, check out mine. Wherever you get your podcasts, it's called Disability Rights and Wrongs, the David Lepodcast. Thanks for watching.